Hi, my name is Marietta Mehanni, and this week's Aqua Tip, we're using 2 dumbbells, and as you can see, the wall is right here because we're going to use the 2 dumbbells and the side of the pool to do an exercise where I'm going to use the side of the pool as a way of being able to control my intensity. Now, I know that sounds strange, but anyway, you'll get it once I get going. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to position the dumbbells deep into the water. And the goal at this point is to be able to touch the dumbbells to the wall and then touch my knees as I do a knee tuck. So basically what I'm doing is this type of motion in the pool, but to stop myself from moving forwards or moving backwards, I'm using the ball as a reference point, which is going to tell me if I'm pushing too hard forwards or pulling too hard back. And that's going to give me an idea about how to control it. So starting off by tapping the wall and pressing the dumbbell to the, and can you see how I'm now moving back? Because I'm pulling in a lot harder than I'm pushing forward. So now I've had a bit more awareness, I'm going to push forwards harder, push forwards harder, push forwards harder. As you can see, I'm moving back. So this is not easy. So in, out, in, out, in, out. Now I've got it, right? I've got it. Okay, so it does take a moment for your participants to get it. So you can do this with 1 dumbbell as well. Now, when we go with 1 dumbbell, there's a few things that we can change here as well. So we've got 1 dumbbell, I can bring it towards my abdomen. I can bring it down closer towards my hips. I can bring it down towards my knees. Each time, it's going to increase the intensity. So I can either hold it this way, or if I've got the space, I can also hold it this way. So I'm going to touch my knees or touch my abdomen, touch the wall, touch my abdomen, touch the wall, trying to keep my feet together as much as possible. And then what you want to do is then see if you can touch the wall and touch your knees, touch the wall, touch your knees, touch the wall, touch your knees. And then if you can, touch the wall, touch your ankles. And that's a lot harder because you've got to make sure you push forwards a lot harder. And this way is probably a little bit easier if you're going to touch the wall and try and bring it down to your ankles. So here, that's better. Now, when you've got your participants doing this, they're going to have to lift their head up out of the water. So once they've seen the exercise, my recommendation is to get them to look down and forwards rather than look up at you the whole time. So encourage them to drop their chin forwards and just listen for the instructions rather than watching for the instructions, which makes your life a little easier because you don't need to be up on pool deck demonstrating unless you need to get in front of someone who perhaps doesn't really quite understand what to do, because you'll have your whole class strung out, or you could have half your class down the back, half your class at the wall, and then they get to do similar exercises, but when they get to the wall, that's where they really find out what they're doing, all right? So it's a cool little exercise in teaching people how to push forwards a little harder. Push forwards is actually the hardest part of the movement because you're now extending out. It's always so much easier to pull everything in, as we know. And this is going to help with extending the spine as well. So cool little exercise, not too hard. It does require some control. It's not going to get your heart rate up. It's more about control and being able to control the effort and the movement that you're doing. So it does require some strength. I wouldn't say that this is a really big abdominal workout, but it's an effective exercise. So it's a strength-based exercise. And that is this week's Aqua Tip. Demonstrating this exercise requires you to get down. I don't think that you can demonstrate this well standing up until your clients have actually seen the position that they need to be in. And to me, it's all about how can I teach this as quickly and as effectively as possible, because effectiveness is the key here, right? So I would get down on full deck and I would start in this position, hold the dumbbells in whichever way I'm going to hold the dumbbells, and then say, and I'll have my weight on the dumbbell and I pull my hands back rather than trying to drag my knees in. I say what you've got to do is touch the wall, and then you're going to see if you can touch your abdomen. Touch the wall, touch your abdomen, touch the wall, touch your abdomen, or if it's going to be this way. Then for those people who want to work a little harder, touch your knees and go forwards. Touch your knees and go forwards. And for those who would like to work even harder, this time come here and touch your ankles. So notice how I just roll in again. So I'm in this position and then reach forwards. Now, I think that once you've demonstrated, and I wouldn't do it that quickly, I would give them a few repetitions and then give them option 2 and option 3. Now, because it's not a very cardio type workout, I do recommend that you mix it up with other things. So they might be doing something where now they're going to be doing like a baby crawl or a mountain climber where they're still tapping the wall, but now we're going to get the heart rate up with an alternate leg action, for example. Now when you switch over to the one dumbbell, it's nice because the wall is right there and they just pop the dumbbell up on the wall. And then the same thing applies here. So if you do want to start with easier and work your way to harder, start with the dumbbell this way. And now that they've done 2 dumbbells, then it's a little bit easier for you to do this in standing. But if you haven't been doing 2 dumbbells and you've just been using 1, you need to go through the same process. So arms out in front and the dumbbell to your abdomen, touch the wall, dumbbell to the abdomen, and make sure you push forwards hard so you stay close to the wall, right? So you need to make sure you stay close to the wall. You've got to really extend forwards. Then, if you want to work harder, you come down to your knees. If you want to work harder, you come down all the way back to your ankles, which means that you need to really tuck your knees up. And then you can give them the option to do it this way. But I would then again mix it up with something else. This is where I'd get them to do something that was more cardio. Maybe they're jogging or doing something, if they're even in really deep water, they could jog near the wall and do something like this. That's a little different, but something that's going to elevate heart rate. That's very important because they're going to cool down. This is not a cardio workout. I think the key thing here is to make sure that they understand that they need to touch the wall, to start slow. I always say start slow. Don't put too much effort in both directions until you get the idea of which way you're moving. If you're moving away from the wall, okay, I need you to pull in a little bit harder so that you keep yourself to the wall. Try and avoid pushing off the wall with the dumbbell, okay, because that push off the wall will get them to move backwards. It's a great little exercise, great for conditioning, muscle conditioning. It could also be used for recovery if you're doing spurts of high intensity, but do mix it in with something that has a little bit more cardio to it. Otherwise, they're going to get cold. The other little pointer was try and keep the feet together, but as you can see, I was struggling to do that. And you just want them to think about doing it. You might not get everyone to do it. It just depends on their buoyancy level. And one other thing is you might even want people on a slight angle when they're doing this if they're getting any neck discomfort. So if they're completely prone and they're talking about sore necks, yes, you want them to bring their chin down, but even have their legs sort of pointing towards the pool floor, depending on their depth, is a great way for them to take that tension out of the neck. Anyway, I hope you give this exercise a go yourself before you teach the class. Hit the subscribe button and go ahead, hit the notification button too. Write comments, I'd love to hear from you. And that is this week's Aqua Tip.